Hey, what's up? Welcome to Mixed in America. My name is Josh Cohen. Before we get started today, I actually want to take a minute to talk about last episode. I talked about identity and being mixed, and I've thought about it a little bit more and had some conversations a little bit. And there are definitely times when I think it would be easier if I was just black or just white. But the more I thought about it, the more I talked to people, I'm very proud of who I am. And I'm proud that I am both black and white, and I think it's pretty cool that I'm different, that I'm not like a lot of other people. I'm proud of my heritage on both sides. I'm proud of who I am, proud of who God made me, and quite honestly, I'm proud of my parents, and I'm proud of what they did. They may not see it as that big of a deal, but it was, and because I have two strong parents, I am who I am today, and I'm proud of that. So with that, let me introduce you to those people. I'm excited today to introduce my very first guest ever, my parents, Jim and Lorraine Cohen, who dated and got married in the mid-'70s, early '80s, raised 4 kids in the '80s and '90s, and I just want you guys to tell me a little bit about your story. So let's get started. Why don't you guys, whoever wants to go first, I know, Mom, you're going to do a lot more of the talking probably, because that's normally how things work around here. But tell me, first of all, either one of you want to get started, but just kind of what was your background? How did you grow up?
You were born first.
Introduce yourself to the people.
Okay, my name's Jim. I am Joshua's father. And I was born in the 50s in Germany. My father was in the Army. He was stationed there at the time. We came back to the States when I was about 9 months old. My dad is from Detroit, Michigan, so we spent a few years there. But then we moved around every couple of years because he was in the Army. And then when I was in 5th grade, my parents divorced. And then my mother remarried right away, and so in 6th grade I went to live with her. In my second half of my junior year in high school, I came to Minnesota. I guess that's when during my senior year is when I met you, right? Yeah. Well, I was 17 when I met my wife, Joshua's mother.
Did you forget her name for a second?
No, I didn't know whether I should call her Lorraine or my wife or whatever. So anyway, that's when we met, was when I moved up here, and we worked together. But like I said, my childhood was just moving around every couple of years, so I got to know a lot of different people, and it wasn't too bad, but I had to meet new friends every couple of years, so that was tough at some times, but not all the time.
And you're wearing your Kansas City Royals World Series champ shirt. I want to make sure that I give a shout out to the Kansas City Chiefs. And when people
Definitely
see me wearing Chief stuff or see me talking about Chief stuff, it's because my dad did live a good portion of your childhood in Missouri.
Correct.
You're a Chiefs fan.
Yes, and I was.
Show that you are a Chiefs fan, and that's why I cheer for the Chiefs.
And not recently. I was at the opening day for Arrowhead Stadium.
He tells this story all the time. Very proud. Didn't you get like a plaque or something?
Yes, yes, I did.
Were one of the first, however many thousands of people to go into Arrowhead Stadium. All right, Mom, why don't you tell your story a little bit as well?
Okay, my name is Lorraine.
You don't have to say it like that.
Oh.
You don't have to.
I was a Brits before I got married. I grew up in Brooklyn. I actually was born in South Minneapolis. 35W took our house, and my parents built a 5-bedroom house on a double lot in Brooklyn Center.
They built that house?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Really? Yeah, they built the house, and it was like it was about a block away from the lake, Twin Lakes. At that time, there was 5 of us, I believe, and we grew to be 9, 8 girls and 1 boy, and we all went to Sacred Heart, which was a Catholic school nearby. My dad was a principal at the public school, Minneapolis public school, and we all went to private schools.
And just to clarify, he was the principal for Prince, right? I know there's a rumor in the Brits family rumor that he's the one that actually pushed him into music a little bit, right? Is that?
There's always was that rumor that he knew Prince and that I don't know if he knew him or somebody talked to him about Prince, saying all he wants to do is do his music. And he said, let him do his music. If that's what he wants to do, let him do his music.
If that'll keep him in school, let him play his music in school.
Give him something productive to do with his time.
That's what we talked about in the
that's
family
what I tell people.
That's the legend, yes.
I claim that my grandpa is the reason that Prince was successful. So, and then you went to...
And then I went to high school at Tortino Grace. And at homecoming, my sophomore year... a lot of my friends had dates and I didn't. And so all of us who didn't have dates went to the party and felt sorry for ourselves. And I remember coming home and the next day around that time, this was like September, that I prayed. I said, Lord, I want a boyfriend. And I want a boyfriend that loves me, that'll like me for who I am, and has a car. Those are the two things I asked for. A month later, I met your dad.
Well, that was going to be my next question anyway. So why don't you tell me about when and where you guys met?
We met at the theater. I was a candy girl. He was an usher. And he used to...
So to clarify, you worked at a movie theater.
We worked at a movie theater in Brooklyn Center.
You guys both lived in Brooklyn Center.
Cinema 1, 2, and 3.
Which does not exist
anymore.
Does not
exist anymore.
What year?
That was in 74.
And you were both in high school. What year were you?
I was a sophomore in high school. No, I must have been a junior.
By then you were a junior.
I was a junior.
And I was a senior.
Yeah, and I had been working there when I turned 16 already. My sophomore year, I started working there. When I met you, it was probably your first day. And we all went out together because we always used to do that. We always used to go out to somebody's house or, I guess Macy, it was to somebody's house, or go out to eat together, all the people that worked at the theater.
So I might regret asking this question. I don't know if I want too many details. But was it love at first sight? You guys hung out for a while?
For me, it was. The first night I worked, I saw your mother, and I thought she was very beautiful, and I said to myself, it would really be nice if we became friends. But I didn't know if I had a shot at dating her or anything.
And Mom probably didn't know you existed.
I did not know he existed. I did not know he existed until he kept coming to work. On the days I worked with, when he didn't work, he'd come, and I always kept, even when he did work, he kept staring at me. I felt somebody staring at me, and I turned to look, and then he would turn away.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if we should go into these kind of details.
Well, that's how I noticed you.
Okay, so I have to ask then. You're white, obviously. If you can't see this right now, but my dad's white. You can see in the picture. They're the people holding me in that picture. My dad's got the mustache. My mom has that little fro kind of thing going. But she was black, and you being white in the mid 70s at the time, was there any hesitation, any thought about, yeah, she's pretty, but she's black, so I don't know if I should or if she would, or I don't know if you had any friends to talk to about this at all, and like.
No, I didn't have any friends, but the thought didn't cross my mind. I didn't even think about it. I just thought she looked pretty, and that's all that mattered. So like I said, I mean, I grew up moving around a lot, and I've had friends who were black, and when I was younger, I didn't go out with other black girls, but I did, I was friends with some, and I danced with black girls at a party and stuff. So, I mean, race wasn't a thing for me. I didn't grow up even thinking about it too much. Just people were people. I didn't care what they looked like.
And Mom, I guess same kind of question. Like, did you think about this awkward white guy that's
Nope.
kind of
All I thought
at
of,
work? Or?
does he have a car? And does he like me? That's all I thought about. And in fact, I had a friend that was a cheerleader friend who was white with me that one day, and she said, what does your mom think about you dating a white guy? I go, I don't think she cared. And he goes, well, what about his parents? And I thought, I don't really care what anybody thought. The guy liked me. He has a car. It didn't matter.
So we're going to have to continue the story because right now the moral of the story is if she's pretty and if he has a car, then that's all we...
That's the way I was back then.
So what was reaction? I guess you talked to your friend. You didn't have any friends to talk to, Dad. But your families, your siblings, what was their reaction? I know, Mom, you were the first one of your sisters to marry a white guy, but you definitely weren't the last. You ended up with, I don't know if it's 5 sisters that married white guys after you, but it was after you. So what kind of reaction did you get from friends, family, co-workers? You guys were at the movie theater?
Yeah, we were all friends there, so nobody thought anything of it. Truthfully, I never got any feedback from my parents, except for a couple days before we were getting married. There was some... We didn't know for sure if they would be at our wedding, and we just said, we'd like you to be at our wedding, but if you don't, we're going to get married one way or the other, so no big deal. My older brother, did mention, he did say, are you sure you want to get married? But that's all he said, so there wasn't really much, people against it that I know of.
Did your parents end up coming to the wedding?
Yes.
They did come, okay.
Yes, they said they would be there. I just felt some tension there, a little bit of tension, but I think maybe they were just maybe concerned. They might have been concerned about our marriage because of the different races, but they've been supportive and they've been great, ever since our wedding. So, I mean...
For me, I had one sister that she will remain anonymous.
Nobody's going to know who it is.
She said to me when I started going out that she thought I was betraying my race. And I didn't really think about it that much, but I did think, okay, if I love somebody and I don't marry them because of the color of their skin, then I am a racist. And I said, I will not be a racist. And then I settled it. It was over and done with. And I don't ever remember. In fact, I think my parents liked your dad better than me. They thought he was everybody thought, all my sisters, all my family loved your dad.
So I asked you, we've talked about this before, but one of the things that I talk about in this podcast is I didn't know a lot of mixed people growing up. And we were trying to literally name people that are older than Brittany, my sister, who just turned 40, older than her that are biracial. And there's not a whole lot of them. So I'm wondering what you guys saw, and that's me growing up in the 90s. I'm wondering what you guys saw as other interracial, or, I mean, obviously you weren't the first one. We know at least the Lovings in Virginia. We know that there's at least one other couple, but what did you guys see when you guys were in high school? Were there any other couples that were interracial?
Our cousins, well, actually they're my mom's cousins that
I don't know who they are.
Ralph Jones married Sherry, who was white.
When was that?
In the 50s.
Okay.
So we grew up with our cousins.
They in Minnesota?
Yes,
Okay.
They live in Minnesota, but they're like my mom's cousins' kids.
Have I ever actually met them?
If you went to one of the reunions,
if you ever went to a reunion,
there's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people.
Remember all of them.
But the Joneses I think their Ralph Jones was older than my mother. So his mother and Ralph Jones's mother and my mother's mother were sisters.
I'm sure everybody can follow along with that.
So it was my grandmother's sister's son, Ralph, in the 50s, married, and it was the early 50s. It might even have been in the 40s because they were older.
Bottom line is there were some mixed marriages in your mother's family. Me, I didn't really know anybody that was of a mixed marriage, but like I said, I didn't care.
I gotta ask, you both grew up in Brooklyn Center. Brooklyn Center now is maybe one of the more, we'll say, urban, diverse communities in the Twin Cities. What was Brooklyn Center like then?
Brooklyn Center, nobody even heard of it. When we grew up in Brooklyn Center, we had dirt roads, septic tanks, well water.
You sound really old.
That was in the early 60s.
It was when we built. There were blacks in our neighborhood, and whites in our neighborhood, and we all hung out together.
But by the time we met in the 70s, it was pretty civilized. Yeah. But there wasn't, I wouldn't say, I'd say there was
they paved the dirt roads.
There was a mixture. Water. I think there was probably mostly white in Brooklyn Center.
I think Brooklyn Center kind of had two sections. If you're closer to the city, there was more blacks over there. And then we were like at the rural part by the lakes, because our area was really, people had cabins.
Yeah, because that was considered kind of out there.
It was kind of considered out there, and there were cabins on the lakes that people moved in.
Which is crazy that Brooklyn Center would ever be considered even the suburbs. There's one question I wanted to ask, Mom. I know you've talked to me about this before, or you've told me this story, but when you were in college, you went to the U, right?
Yes.
University of Minnesota. Good friends with Flip Saunders and Tony Dungy.
I did not know them at all.
But they were there at the same time as you, right?
Yes. I think so, but I did not know them.
They were probably
and
Kevin McHale.
Yeah,
was he there at the same time too? I don't know the years and they overlap, whatever. But you went to the University of Minnesota. It was at the U, right? Where you had a professor that was talking about like reasons why people would date or marry outside of their race. Can you tell that story?
Yes, I was married at the time. We were married by then. I was married in college. And I took a class, I think it was called Blacks or African American, some kind of a class like that. And one of the
Blacks?
I can't remember.
Black Studies.
Yeah, I don't remember what the name of it was, but I remember in the class, one of the chapters was interracial marriage. And then in the class, they talked about all the reasons why people marry interracially. And never once did he ever say for love. So I raised my hand. I said, well, what about love? Because you love that person. And he said, let me think about that. I'll have to think about that. And we never went any farther with that.
I've heard that story before. It just blows my mind that, yeah. And obviously, there's been more discussion. Well, it was, I think 2016 was when that Loving movie came out that talked about Loving versus Virginia. They got married, I think, in 1958, which was the year you were born.
Right.
Sorry if I'm telling people how old you are. The Supreme Court finally in 1967 made interracial marriage legal throughout the whole country, because there were some states, I think Virginia was the last one, but some states that still had laws on the books about that. So maybe nationwide it was maybe a bigger problem, or at least people were more concerned, or there's bigger issues with it. But it sounds like in Minnesota you had cousins, or it wasn't really something up here that, at least in your experience, was really
and
too much of an issue.
to
it wasn't really an issue.
On that subject, I did go to high school in Missouri, and I have friends still there. We went down there to a Royals game. The Royals and the Twins were playing. We went down to the stadium.
Recently, or
no? This was earlier in our
when we
marriage.
First got married.
I don't think we had kids yet. And I didn't notice, maybe I just don't notice things, but my friend said that people were staring at us when we were down there at the stadium and everything, and I didn't pay attention to it, so I don't know if that was true or not. But
So kids are one of the things that I've had conversations with people. I've heard of people who don't have any problems with black people, have no problems with white people, don't even have a problem with them getting together. It's the kids that they think for some reason they're going to turn out weird or they're going to have a hard time or whatever. I'm not really sure, but did that thought ever cross your mind either before marriage or after marriage? You guys had kids pretty quick after marriage. You had Brittany. Did that thought ever cross your mind?
We were married in 78 and Brittany was born in 1980. It never crossed our minds. I did hear of people saying that if you interracial marry, that your kids would be weird. And I mean, there's Nathan, so I mean,
1 out of 4 is not bad.
No, just kidding, Nathan. We didn't think about it, and you guys are all good kids. You're fairly intelligent, and
Fairly intelligent.
so I don't think there's a problem. And like you said, there's a lot of mixed kids. There's a lot of famous mixed kids too, but there might be more. I'm sure there's a ton more than you think of, but they're just not famous. You know, so I don't think it's been a problem.
I don't even see the logic. How can it be? Because it would be like if a blonde marries somebody with black hair, you get hair.
It's just different. It's just a different color.
It's just a different color.
Genetics are the same.
That's
DNA's
the same way. And even if you are, your kids can have skin color. Even if you're white, you have different skin color.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I always talk about too, is growing up with, obviously you talked about your sisters that married white guys. You know, one of your sisters married a black guy, so we have cousins that are all black. You had a brother who married a white lady who already had kids, so we had all white kids growing up. So, and just on your side of the family, obviously all our cousins on dad's side were white.
Well, even her siblings,
and even
different
them,
skin
different
shades.
We're all
shades.
different. People used to ask me
And
if
they
me
have
and
the
my
same
older sister
parent.
have the same fathers. I go, yeah, we did. She was a lot darker than me.
Yeah, and that's the way I always grew up, was just that everybody, you know, I say my mom had darker skin than my dad, and all of us kids were somewhere in between. That was just kind of how we grew up.
What does it matter?
Just think about this. What about reactions to, and then we'll wrap things up, but reactions to either you guys, like having the kids, like if you had the kids and they looked white, mom or dad, if you had them and people looked black, did you ever get looks or anything? Or I know for a fact with Nathan's kids, who, especially Aaron, is very blonde hair, blue eyes, looks more like he's related to Jocelyn than to me.
Yes.
I know you've gotten at least some looks, if not comments, on having such white grandkids, but I don't know if kids or grandkids, if you've ever had anything like that with, you know, are they actually yours or?
I haven't had that, but that brings up something that it reminds me of some friends of ours, Robert Smith and his wife. We went out
also known as the only other mixed couple at our church when we were growing up, right?
Well, that's the first ones we knew. There's more now.
Now there's a ton.
Because look at
Okay.
But I just remember when we were kids that you
Anyways,
guys were friends with the other mixed couple at our church.
Deborah and Robert Smith, we went out to eat together, and of course she's white and he's black, and you know, my wife's black, I'm white. We were sitting at the table, the four of us, and Robert just out of the blue said, the waitress, I wonder if she's thinking who's with who. Or, you know, so he's just, and he's had some, but that's him. He's had some experiences.
Yeah.
But I thought that was.
But I thought that was funny that people might say, well, I wonder who's with who. You know, you got two blacks and two whites, and or who's together with who, whatever. But
Yeah. Did you have something else?
That reminds me, sometimes in the early years when we used to go, sometimes when we would go shopping or together, and people say, "Are you?" And you don't know, people would say, "Are you guys together?"
We get that. I guess
we used to get that a lot.
People ask if you're together?
Yeah, because
we would be standing in line to like buy something, and it would be like, well, your mom's in front and I'm in the back, and they might say, "Oh, I can help you over here," and I would have to say, "Well, we're together."
We're together.
So that kind of happened a lot.
That happened a lot.
I don't know
Younger
if that's
days, but
that
you
big
know
a
what?
deal.
I don't know. Maybe we don't stand close enough together, or
well, you do.
Whatever.
I know Dad especially doesn't like PDA, so you guys probably.
Yeah, he's like, he's not gonna hold my hand.
Force you to hold her hand in our wedding pictures. I remember that. Because Jocelyn's parents were holding hands or something, and so they're like, it's weird if they are. Anyway, that's another story. Anyways, did you guys have anything else? I mean, I know that you guys said your story isn't like crazy or anything, whatever, like, and that's okay, because I just think everybody, the more conversations that we have, and I say we, like Americans, whatever, the conversations that we have, sharing each other's stories, because everybody has a unique perspective based on the story that they have. And if we all took some more time to listen to each other's stories, we are going to learn a lot of things. Like maybe in your situation, it wasn't that bad. Obviously, there were looks and comments and stuff that you had to think about that a couple that was just white or just black wouldn't have to think about. Maybe comments they wouldn't get, which isn't maybe not a big deal to you guys, but everybody's experience is different. And the more conversations we can have, the more we can share our stories. I think that's a big deal.
I think it's how you're raised, as how you look at the world.
Yeah.
And for me, growing up, like I said, my dad's from Detroit, Michigan, and he never brought up any racial things growing up. And my mom and never did either. And so, like I said, I moved around a lot, so I got to know a lot of different people. I think that helps too when you get to know other races and find out that we're more alike than we are different, and we all kind of want the same thing. I think been my experience. My best friend is black, and it's just we just get along. I mean, we weren't afraid to hang out, and he's from Selma, Alabama.
Talking about Al, right?
Yeah.
My godfather?
Yeah.
When you're talking about that, what brings up is even when there were people who may have opposed us and said things in families, they, over the years, have either apologized or just explained themselves and have changed.
Well, that brings up an instance that you had in high school when another team you were playing,
right,
they were black, and your friends who were white were saying something about them,
or they just made comment, look at the, or whatever. I don't even remember.
Yeah, they were making comments about it, and then you said, "Well, I'm black," and they go, "Well, we don't mean you," or something. It's because they were friends, and so they didn't look at her skin color anymore because they were friends. Yeah. So I think that's the bottom line is.
And I think that's a powerful thing in that, because there is a lot of people wondering now, what can we do? Because racial tensions have been brought to the forefront more so than ever, probably for sure in my lifetime, but definitely in our city, in Minneapolis. Like there's been more and more conversations. I think the conversations are great. Because I think what you talk about is getting to know someone. I think that's like the biggest thing. Yep. Is that it's easy to judge someone that's over there, whether it's the color of their skin or their religion or their whatever it is, their choices that they make. It's easy to judge them over there. But when you sit down and have a cup of coffee with them, when you share a room, have a conversation, get to know them, then...
Well, and a lot of people have prejudices of things that they think, they've seen something maybe in the past, and so they judge from that one thing. They judge everyone. Yeah. An example comes up with NASCAR. Yeah. When we had we had some people stay with us from Oregon, and we're watching NASCAR, and I go, "This is Minnesota. You guys watch NASCAR?" Yeah. And I know a lot of people think that NASCAR fans are racist and rednecks. Yeah. And some of them are, but not all of them are. Yeah. And so I don't think we can just judge everything by one action of somebody. Yeah. You just can't generalize, I don't think.
I really do think, and that's why I do this. That's why me and AJ started this podcast, this other podcast that he had me join him with, is just to have the conversations. And I think when you get to know people, your stereotypes, whatever preconceived ideas you thought you had about them, whether it was from something you saw on TV, and the news, on a movie, or whatever it is, or whatever you've heard, then you paint this with a broad brush. Everybody that looks like that, or acts like that, or thinks like that, or everybody in that profession acts a certain way or thinks a certain way, and we paint with that broad brush and understand that that's just a small percentage of people. Maybe they might be the only one, but if they're the only one that you've heard about or experienced, then you think everybody that looks like that or acts like that or thinks like that is that same person. But if you sit down and have a conversation with somebody and learn their story, I think it makes a huge difference. All right, well, that's it for today. I want to thank you guys for sitting down, taking the time, and for sharing your story and allowing me to share your story with people. And thank you guys that listened. And I want you guys to join me next week, where I will talk about that word, the N word, my thoughts and feelings on it. I don't think it'll be very long, but I definitely have some strong opinions on this word. Who can say it, who should say it, who shouldn't say it. Join me next Monday for episode 6 of Mixed in America. Hey, thanks for watching my video. I hope you liked it. If you did, can you do 3 things for me? Can you like the video, subscribe to my channel, and tell your friends?